welcome to my Goa Network. We're in this picturesque part of Panjim called Fontainish, and now we're going to have business breakfast with Vijay Thomas, CEO and founder of Tangentia Technologies. Hey, hi Vijay. Good morning, and welcome to Business Breakfast with my Goa Network.
Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to Business Breakfast. I'm with entrepreneur, quiz god, golf aficionado, voice of industry, and somebody who's celebrating 20 years of his business, Vijay Thomas. Vijay, welcome to Goa, welcome to India.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Harsh. Great to be here. Great to be in Goa. Great to be in India. Great to be in Panjim. Great to be at this place here. This is fantastic. This is I just learnt is the most Instagram spot in Goa.
So, tell us about your childhood, growing up in St. Vitos.
For the very early part of my life, I grew up in a small village called Aldona, which now, on 30, 40 years later, has become one of the most popular villages in Delhi, yes, and even in Bollywood. Amitabh Bachchan supposedly has a house there, and a lot of big celebrities. So I grew up there until I was, probably 14 years old. It was picturesque. It was, we didn't realize we had a great thing going at that time, but now on hindsight, I think we had a fantastic thing going.
You graduated from Goa, from your management, Masters in Management from GIM, Goa Institute of Management. What did GIM give you besides your lovely wife?
So GIM absolutely, got me my life partner, and Parul, who's my wife. I met her at GIM. Besides that, I mean, I think a whole bunch of very good connections within industry. People, somehow that I went to class with have become, leaders in industry, things like that. But I think more than anything else, it was a certain a certain belief system that I think was inculcated by the institute, which at that time, I think GM was way ahead of their time in talking about ethical management and ethics in business, which in the late 90s was way ahead of its time. Today, if somebody talks about ethics in management, sustainability, all of this is par for the course. Every company, if you don't talk this, you're not you're not part of the the ecosystem. But to be talking of some of these things that far back, they definitely had a vision of where business was going, and I think a lot of the professors also embodied that vision, and I think some of that did trickle down to the students as well. So I think it was a great 2 years. A lot of people I meet say that it's probably the best 2 years of their life, and I would say absolutely yes. So they definitely, to your personal life, but also to your the way you carry yourself and business. I think a lot of things that we learn from there.
So, is it important? How has business management studies helped you as an entrepreneur?
For me personally, I think different people have different takes on this. But for me personally, one was I had a mechanical engineering background. I had a lot of interest in business. I mean, I used to invest in stocks. I used to invest, so I read up. I had a lot of knowledge that was self-taught. For me, a balance sheet, P&L account, the first year in finance. I mean, these were things that I thought was fantastic, because I could read a balance sheet, P&L, but I didn't know how to make sure the balance on both sides and all of that stuff. So, but once you get it, it's like riding a bicycle. So then you don't forget. So I think these are some very fundamental things that I learned you know, in finance, accounting, production management, and you know, advertising, and you know, I was one of those guys that you know, looked at you know, as the education, and maybe because I also worked for a little while in between, so I looked at it as saying, let's get as much as possible. So today, when I started my own company, when I started Tangential, I didn't have to go get a CFO. I didn't have to get a CMO. I didn't get to get one of all these other you know, designations, because
You had the skills yourself.
I had the skills myself. So you know, now as we started growing, you know, now I'm delegating and making sure we had the other designations and those people in there. So it was a lot of hard work, but I did have the skills to do it myself if need be.
So, before you turned entrepreneur 20 years back, with Tangentia, of course, what was life before the time that you graduated from B school to becoming an entrepreneur?
I, you know, this is sometimes in at GIM, I somehow took a liking to finance, and I did very well. So if you do very well in finance courses and you become the, you know, you're the topper in finance, so people would say, hey, so you got to join finance. So I know I kind of said, okay, let's go join finance. So, but late in the 90s, late 90s, 99 to be precise, the finance market was in a downturn. It was nothing much was happening there, and I think there were not many jobs, you know, being offered to MBA people at that time, or MBA people from GIM at that time. So, you know, I didn't get a job, but as I'm a strong believer in serendipity. So, you know, sometimes our best plans can you know, are not as good as what the universe has for you. So, you know, it was 1999, so Y2K was happening. The IT companies in India were booming. So, a company called Satyam, which their management consulting division called Satyam Renaissance Consulting, came to campus, and hey, I applied and I got selected. It was in Chennai, and then I spent some time in Hyderabad. So that took me into actual consulting, you know, management consulting, business process re-engineering. So all of those smarts that I learned there, you know, definitely stood me in good stead in the future life. Also, I got to travel the world. I went to Australia. I went to the US. I was a project manager in a company. So it was fantastic. It was fantastic, and it kind of built on that rounded up, you know, self that I was creating for myself, and this added even more. It added the consulting smarts, and now I actually had the confidence to stand up and tell people this is how you need to do this. So, so I think that is definitely, and I worked with some really fantastic people, and supply chain was really something that we worked on there. So my grounding in supply chain, and you know, I kind of boast, thanks to all those things that I did there, I can stand up to any supply chain consultant anywhere in the world, and you know, get in a word or two of my own that will, you know, add some value to any conversation. So I think that really helped. Yeah.
So, when you were having such a wonderful, cushy job with a global exposure, why did the entrepreneurial bug bit you, and how?
So the entrepreneurial bug was always within. I mean, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think growing up, I mean, my mother was a school teacher. My father was in the government service. So, you know, there was nobody. And in fact, my mother kept telling me, there's nobody in our family has ever done business, and if anybody tried doing business, they failed. So there was not much support in way of the family there. But we knew some friends you know, that were business people, and because I was very interested in the stock market, right? That in the late early 90s, this is when Harshad Mehta, you know,
Scam happened.
yeah, scam happened. I mean, before it was a scam, it was magic.
It was a boom.
It was a boom, right? So when the scam happened, it became a scam. But until then, it was like, how the hell can somebody do this? And it is almost like today we're talking about a $5 trillion economy. I think that was also a big confidence booster for the nation, that yes, this is possible. The young kid can come from somewhere, just have the be gutsy and you just do this, right? And you know, so I think you know, that also kind of, you know, made an impact on me, and said, hey, this is possible. So you can do some things, you can do big things. So I think that was one of the moments there, and then so going forward, the straw that broke the camel's back is my wife now, my fiance then, when I was in the US, this was in around 2000. In 2000, George Bush was the
President of the
president, right? So George Bush, not George Bush, it was I think
Junior.
Bill Clinton, yeah. And then George Bush just became president, I think, the next year. So when Bill Clinton was president, the L1 visa, which is a company transfer visa, is what I had gone on to. The spouse on an L1 visa, the L2 visa, couldn't work. So she said, hey, you know what, I am not coming to the US if I cannot work. So now I was in a quandary. I mean, I kind of liked North America, right? I mean, in the in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was actually a big difference in the standard of living, in the quality of life between India and the US. Now, I always give people the example. I used to ride a scooter. I had a Vespa, LML Vespa scooter in Chennai, which, by the way, I did not get here. Somewhere floating around in Chennai still, and I landed in the U.S. And you know, I rented a Toyota Camry right away, right off the bat, right. So in India, only I think a senior director or some really senior person was driving a Toyota Camry in the late 90s. So there was a huge jump
In lifestyle.
in lifestyle, you know. So I must confess, I liked it. So I was like, I'm not, you know, this seems good. Why would we want to go back, right? So and so then that led to you know, you know, I couldn't stay in the U.S. So one weekend I went to Canada and I met a friend of ours. You know, he was working in Montreal, and he was working for a plane company called Bombardier, and he said, would you be interested in a job in Canada? And Bombardier was hiring project managers, and I said, can the spouse on a work permit in Canada work? And he said yes. I said, yeah, done. So I go for the interview and they hired me. So, you know, and then I came back, we got married, and then one day in the mail, and a courier came with the actual papers for Canada. So I said, hey, this is great. So a lot of serendipity, but you know, the key was that you know, the L2 visa. But at that point, just immediately when George Bush came, he allowed the L2 visa to work. So, you know, if I stayed long enough, maybe I would have been in the US. But I have no regrets with how everything's turned out. Turned out very well, and so the one thing led to another, and then that's got me to Montreal, and then. You know, at one time, the real reason to jump into entrepreneurship was I used to work for a French company out of Paris, and I was in Toronto. We went to Montreal, but then we realized my wife couldn't work in Montreal because, you know, you need to know French in marketing, and she's in marketing. So we went to Toronto, and one Christmas, I think I came back to India, and I did not check these emails that came from Paris HR. So I go back to Toronto, and I needed some help from my boss, who was the vice president. I called the vice president was not there. So I called the president of the company, he was also not there. So then I realized there was an HR person in Quebec City. I called that guy, and then I asked him, hey, what's happening? Nobody's picking up the phone. He said, don't you know? I said, don't you know what? He said, they sold the company. So the company was sold by the French owners to some other people, but they only kept 2 employees in Canada. One was the HR guy and me. So they said I was doing a good job with selling and everything. They said, you continue, and the HR guy, we need to hire more people. But the HR guy told me that next day was his last day. He was also quitting. I would be the only guy in Canada. And I said, how is this going to work? I mean, you know, how do I do this? He says, you have to do everything, build everything yourself. That was what really, you know, broke the camel's back. I said, if I have to do all this myself, I might as well do it for myself. So that's when I become an entrepreneur, and you know, rest is history. I mean, but you know, I had to take a big risk because you in a foreign country without a salary, it was a risk, but you know, it worked out.
So what was the first big break for you? I mean, what made you feel that now this is going to work?
You know, I like to be in the school of thought of only the paranoid survive. So.
Andy Groves.
Yeah, Andy Groves. So I truly, every day wake up and I think something's going to go wrong, something can go wrong. I always start thinking about, you know, what can we do to make things better. So it kind of keeps you on your, you know, it may be But when I then realized that Andy Grove was thinking the same way, hey, I'm like, it's not bad. I'm in good company. So, but it took me 4 years to pay myself a salary, okay, which is, it was more than anything. I think I just wanted this to succeed. So I think the first big project that we got was Sony BMG. Sony BMG is a music company, and we won their EDI business, which was our first $100,000 account. And I think at that point I got a feel that we might be out of the woods. Until then I was like,
So it took four years for this?
4 years for that, yes.
So how did you sustain yourself emotionally and financially in these 4 years?
That is a question that I kind of ask myself as well, and sometimes, if I were to do this again, how would I do this, right? And sometimes the answer is I would not do what I did in the past. What I did in the past was, because I had worked for Satyam Computers, I had worked for services companies. I kind of thought I was too smart for services companies. I say anybody can do that, right? So I decided to create a product company with actual products with no money. Okay, so because I really didn't have exposure to running a business. I mean, I learned some things of about business and accounting, finance, all that kind of stuff, but I really had no experience. So I learned it the hard way, and then I think as we went along, somewhere down the way, I spent a lot of time building products, SaaS products. In 2003, 2005, we had SaaS solutions and all that, which was way ahead of our time, but we didn't have money. So, so how do we sustain ourselves? I had to wait for my wife's salary to come in. We had a lot of small customers doing small jobs. I used to actually do the coding myself. Before the end of the month, I would drive around, collect money, collect checks to pay payroll and stuff like that. So as late as 2008, 2009 maybe, we've had checks bounced and all that stuff. So it was but I think then we started a services business, where with services you have more assured income. This is a business which the Infosys, Wipro, the TCS of the world do, and they're more risk averse. I mean, that's why they're gushing cash all the time. Now, I should have gone the other way around. I should have started a services business and then got into products. But then some other people came to me and said, if you did that, you would never get into products because you would get addicted to the cash flow. So, you know what, the jury is out there. I have no regrets in how everything turned out, but we've made a product portfolio right now, which is really strong. So today, Tangential owns, we are now rebranded products called TIA, Tangential Intelligent Automation. TIA products today, if you're a vendor to Reliance Retail, you log into a TIA portal, Tangential portal. Okay, that's how you get your purchase orders, that's how you send your invoices, ASN. So if you live in India like you do, you go to Reliance Trends, you pick up a garment, we've touched that. It's gone through our system. Right, so that is our system in the back end. If you've heard of a very large order that India recently got to make servers in India. Now we are the company in the back end doing all the back end for that. So this is just an India thing, but across the world we have some big name customers. From a supply chain perspective, we manage the largest beverage alcohol distribute in the world. Every bottle of beer, wine, cider sold in the province of Ontario goes through a Tangential system. There's $1.8 billion in revenue goes through our system. So, today in India as well, BKT Tires, Del Monte, Reliance, Del Monte Foods, we're working with many other companies. So we're kind of slowly, we're the company not many people know of, but we are helping support the economy. We're in the back end. We're there. Nobody sees us, but we're running this.
So as a company, like you say, that nobody knows of,
Yeah.
how do you manage to make a sale to a big corporate?
It is difficult, but I think, and we're trying to figure out how do you make a sale to a big corporate in a sustainable manner, easily. I don't think we've really figured it out as yet. We have, most times what happens is, I call ourselves the Red Adair of this business. So Red Adair, for those of you who don't know, is Red Adair was this California firefighter. So if there's a forest fire that is bigger than the county can put out, they would call Red Adair. So Red Adair, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, and then when he left, he burned the oil wells. So guess who they called? They called Red Red to put off those fires. So a lot of the projects that we get is people have tried many other companies, they failed, and they're like, let's call somebody who can do this on time, on budget, and this is an important project, right? So we almost get called like a 911. We get called to fix stuff, right? So we built a reputation of being able to deliver. So I want to change this, and I want people to not just call us when their project fails or when they want to do something. They want to call us every time, because hey, would you not want, I kind of compare, one of the companies that I compare ourselves to is L&T. Now if you want a bridge built or a flyover built or a temple built, you want L&T, because they would do it on time, they would do it well, the things that. So we, in the digital world, we want to be seen or perceived as a digital L&T. So you want things done right, call us, and so that's the kind of positioning that we would like to build. But we are already there, but we've won a lot of these on sheer dint of hard work, sheer credibility, and being able to deliver large projects. And some of these projects we just recently, like on February 1st, went live with energy efficiency marketplace for India. So ESLmart.in is built by Tanyasha. So we have huge reference customers. So today I think it's just more people should know of us, and more people should trust us, and I think we're getting there. We're getting there. Somebody once walked up to me and said, you're an overnight success, and I said it's an overnight success that took 20 years in the making.
So 20 years is a long time in business, like you say. What are the milestones that you would like to cherish on the way?
I think one of the big milestones, I think, was, and then on hindsight, maybe good or bad, whatever. But again, maybe a little bit of my Indian middle class roots was when we actually bought an office space. Okay, so it was like, hey, we bought an office space. Now, from a valuation of a company perspective, buying space doesn't really make a difference. Okay, but it just felt good that you owned actual space yourself. Another reason we bought that was the banks were not willing to give us any money, so they only liked giving money to anybody that had hard assets. So as a software company, you have no assets. Even if you have IP, to the bank it was no value, right? So banks, I think now they've begun to really slowly see some value in this, but mostly they don't see any value in anything hard. So we kind of force ourselves to buy assets to show value. Yeah, so that we can at least get a line of credit and things like that. Yeah, so that was one thing. I think buying assets. I think more than anything else, I think was also actually getting recognized by some global companies. We became platinum partners of IBM. We got Automation Anywhere Partner of the Year. We were 6 years in a row on Canada's fastest growing companies, the Profit 500.
You're one of the few companies who have made it big in the US, in Canada, in Europe, and you decided to set up shop in Goa. Was that an emotional decision or a business decision?
I mean, today, a lot of people think that it was a fantastic decision, smart. Goa, and especially after COVID, you almost seem like a visionary that you have an office in Goa. But in all honesty, when I had to start an office in India, I wanted somebody that I trusted that could sign the checks, and that person was my father, and he happened to be in Goa, and so that's where we started. So it was not, it was not a whole lot of strategy or a whole lot of vision that went into it. It started off like that, but I think as we went along, we built on it, and I think it's turned out quite well. But it was not really triggered by anything much. It was triggered by, not the home, but it was triggered by you needed, rather than hiring a CFO and something like that, we didn't have the money for all that. So I hired my dad to manage some of the early, just at least keep an eye on accounts and stuff like that.
So what's your idea about Goa's IT ecosystem, and what suggestions would you give Goa's IT to really take it to the next level?
Today, IT, Goa, I think, is a great place to do business with, and I think it's been shown by the pharmaceutical industry. The pharma industry in Goa, has 10% GDP of the pharma industry, and in Goa only has less than 1% of GDP and less than 1% of India's population. So how did the pharma industry get to 10% of India's pharma GDP? Okay, so they obviously did something right. So also it's a cluster concept. There's an ecosystem. They got some big players to come in. So all of those things worked out, right? So it's also a timing thing. Maybe they went in the right time. They had some, their government incentives. All of those things working. So can the same thing happen with IT? Now, with IT, one thing that you know is it requires a lot of space, like the traditional IT, the Infosys going and putting in a park, like the parks in Pune, Hinjawadi, or in Techno Park, and so all these things require space. So in Goa, I think somebody will have to decide whether, are we ready for that bigger space, because you can't have it both ways. You can't have it quaint and Goa remains the same, and you have 20,000 people coming in. It won't remain the same, right? So 20,000 ancillary thing. We're talking about maybe another quarter million people coming in. So that is something that we'll have to decide. Is that what we want? And then people talk about small scale IT and
Like
IT,
a boutique IT firm.
boutique IT firms, startup firms. Okay, I think there is opportunity for that, and I think it's already happening.
But don't you think that a critical mass is required for IT ecosystem to boom?
See, the critical, there is a critical, I think, one is this companies like Delivery, which I think a lot of people in India, in Goa also don't know. Delivery is a unicorn. It's a unicorn, and they moved the headquarters to Goa, right? So if they moved the headquarters to Goa, that is definitely a good thing. And they have seen something in Goa that I think other people are also seeing. So more and more so, I think people will see that. How do we amplify this message? How do we get more people coming in? Today, I live in Toronto, Canada, and another jurisdiction or geography that's doing a good job with this is Portugal. Portugal is getting digital nomads, getting people to work in Portugal, and they've been very successful, very successful getting people to come. So that could be one approach. The approach, the other one is if you want to, I think one approach is Goa is a microcosm of India. Okay, so if we sell that to more companies globally that want to enter the India market, right? So this could be a real selling pitch where we tell people, you want to enter India, don't go into the big cities right away. First go, use Goa as a launch pad. We have very good connectivity now. Go here, set up a shop, set up a lab, you want to launch product. It could be anything, it's not just IT, but it could be anything, right, that you want to go after. Goa, that could be a good selling point, but for that as well, I think they're looking for plug and play office space, they're looking for some. So some of those things, it could be from the government sector, could be the private sector, but we need those things coming up. If those things come up, plug and play, because if they come in here, they have to find, so if it's all in one spot, like we have an office in Kerala in a place called Techno Park, which is one of the largest SEZ parks, IT parks in India, and it's entirely plug and play. You can get, overnight, you'll get a space, you can choose a 20-seater, 40-seater, space. It comes with all the amenities, comes with everything, and you just get started. Now, if something like that is available and single window clearance, right there itself they can apply for everything, GST, this, that, everything. Why not? Why not you start here? And then some of them might stay. You don't need to move out. But I think there is a way to, and that's one demographic. And this is a global demographic that we can bring here. And everybody's coming to India. Everybody's making a beeline for India right now. So in that beeline for India, how do we wave the Goa flag and say, come to Goa? You can still have access to all of India, but in a setting which is nice and clean, serene, little European flair, So some of this thing I think will have to be sold, and if we can sell that, you can really get those people to come in, and I think Goa sells by itself. You just need a little bit of a spark. It will sell by itself.
Coming to your passion, cruising and golf. You have created two properties out of it, the Jigyasa quiz and the Tangential Open. So tell us something about that.
Yeah, again, the Jigyasa quiz I think started off, when I was at Satyam Computer Services. I think one day, we decided we should do a quiz, and then some of my colleagues, they were all from GIM as well. We decided let's have a quiz. So we started a weekly quiz on email within Satyam. Okay, so unfortunately for us, it became so big that it blocked the servers. The email servers in those days, in the late 90s, they were not so much throughput. But just imagine, we send it to all in Satyam, and then everybody started responding at the same time. So it caused so much traffic that we got pulled up, and they said, "Hey, you can't do this." So then we took this outside, and we took it. We went on a Google. It was Yahoo Groups, which became Google Groups, I think so. So we started this in the late 90s. 99 was when the Jigyasa thing started off, and then it kind of died out after some time. And then I think as in 2017, I was thinking of we got to do something to from a marketing standpoint, and also part of my passion thing. Let's do something, right? I was always enamored by the what is the other one called? Times of India?
Tata Crucible.
Tata Crucible. And the Tata Crucible, I think before that there was another quiz, Economic Time, Brand Equity. There was a Brand Equity quiz as well. So the Brand Equity is no longer there, right? So my thought was we want to make the next Brand Equity. Okay, so that was the thought. If it was Economic Times. So if Economic Time Brand Equity is not there, so there is a space, there's a void. Can Tangential Jigyasa fill that void? Okay, so that was the hypothesis. And I think the first year we started off, we had one big quizzing team come, and they were all local players. But I think from the next year onwards, we started getting the top who's who teams in India participating. So Tangential Jigyasa now is a quiz that is a legitimate quiz on the quizzing circle in India.
So golfing, tell us about the Tangential Open.
So the Tangential Open started off 3 years back, where in Canada, we kind of, from a tangential perspective, we thought about it and said, what do a lot of people, C-level people, like to do? They like to golf, right? So we said, well, let's have a golf tournament. The first year we started off as a employee appreciation, customer appreciation event, and kind of getting people together. And the second year we realized that there is potentially more we can do. Can we make this a thought leadership event? Can we add a summit to it? So then it became the Tangential Open Technology Summit. So the morning of the event is a technology summit. We get speakers, industry speakers. We had Forrester Research come in. We have some of our customers come and speak. And that's really helped us, get people who are really serious about stuff and coming. And then after lunch, we have golf, okay, and we have a dinner event as well. So this is and the morning is very packed, very TED Talks kind of format, 15 minutes. People go through it, and I think it was a huge success, and our customers loved it. Our our partners loved it. It's an opportunity for them to showcase their skills. And then we had 3 years of this in Canada, in North America. This year we decided to have it in India. We had it in Gurugram on the 9th of February. It was a fantastic event. We had almost 120 people attend, C-levels, corporates in India, you name it. We had people all the way from Reliance Retail to some big, CEOs, CIOs attending. We also had golf, and India golf is not as prevalent, not as many people play golf, so there was a little bit of a a novelty factor to it. So people, loved it. There was, you could see the glee on people's faces when they connected with the ball, and people think it's easy, but it's not easy to connect with the ball is quite small, and if you want to get it to go where you want, you need to have some skills. So, I think it was good, fantastic, and I think we've built, we're hoping we definitely will have this continue, and as you said, it's a property. We want to kind of make sure that we do this more, but also specifically for India, I think we are going to now have smaller golf tournaments in other cities as well. We realized every city
Has a golfing culture.
has a golfing culture, and it's a micro culture. It's a small group of people that do it, but everybody knows of it. So let's say, and there's a golf course. Even in Goa, there's a golf course. So how do we make sure that we have a small event and get people together, at least in those geographies? So Bangalore has one. Every city has a Chennai golf course. Every city has a golf course. So we want to make sure that this and we want to tie tangential to golf. I mean, it is. We think it's a good sport. I mean, it's a good sport. I sometimes joke. It requires skills. It requires a lot of things. But on a side note, I mean, and this is not to propagate drinking, but this is one sport where you can drink a beer and it doesn't affect your performance.
Great. Now, coming back to business, this is business breakfast, as you know. Tell us about one or two attributes in your personality which has helped you as an entrepreneur.
Good question, and I have sometimes thought about it myself, because I sometimes, I've got to hire other people. So, for want of a term, I try to look for mini-me's. I look for people that have the same skills that I have, and then I find it difficult, and I realize, how the hell did I get all these skills, and how come people don't have it? So I think there's a lot of things, things that people go through their lives, places they lived, people they've met, so I think there's a bunch of different things that go to making you unique. One thing I think is, I speak multiple languages. My parents, my mother tongue is Malayalam, but I was born and brought up in Goa. I speak Konkani very well. I sometimes say I can swear in Konkani more than people whose mother tongue is Konkani. But I speak Marathi. I speak Hindi quite recently, quite well. Again, those of you who speak Shuddh Hindi, Ling is maaf for me. Okay, so I probably, but so this is one aspect of this. But then also I lived in other parts of the world. So I have a cultural connect, to other sides of the world. So it's not just a uni view of the world. So I can relate to different things. So which I think is the biggest advantage in today's world. Being able to connect with other people, and then the fact that I speak to my wife sometimes, and she says she grew up in Rajasthan, and she was Rajasthani in Rajasthan all her life. She's never had multiple things to counter or whatever. So on the other hand, my parents spoke Malayalam at home. We spoke English in school. Friends just spoke Konkani. So I could switch things quite easily. So I think that agility is quite important in today's world, and people that can see the world through different perspectives, I think is very important. And also having been a mechanical engineer, and then also in having an MBA, so also I can see things from a programmer perspective, from the other perspective. So that I think is a key strength that I must say. And the other thing is, I think to be able to sell. I think I think I'm still our best sales guy.
So fantastic talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
All the best on 20 years of attention.
Thank you, and Harsh, wishing you all the best as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.